Genesis of the universe. Basic elements of the cosmos, gods, consciousness, first physical and mathematical elements. Friends, allow me to explain in a simple and easy to understand way how I view the cosmos, its creation, and fundamental principles. To begin to understand these explanations, the first thing we need is the capacity for understanding, and this is what consciousness consists of, both human and universal. Consciousness. Consciousness is the capacity and ability to combine, assess, comprehend, and feel any fact or event in the universe, taking in and assessing as a whole all the elements our mind has regarding that cosmic fact or event, including the feelings and sensations that said event produces in us. Therefore, the individual who has more information and data about said event and knows how to combine and assess them in their entirety as a whole and as a creative fact will be more aware of a cosmic event. That's why humans have consciousness, while computers don't. Humans are capable of simultaneously containing and evaluating all the elements of an event, while computers only evaluate one point or element sequentially at a time, then another, and another, etc., but they only go from element to element without having a vision and creative evaluation of the whole. Thus, as humans developed their brains and minds, they acquired the ability to observe and evaluate, as a whole, with ever-increasing amounts of data and intelligent elements, everything they observed around them. And yes, this is how man developed his brain and mind, and therefore, the ability to become aware of the events he observed around him. The boundary between animal and human. However, the increase, quality, and level of consciousness in the most primitive humans reached a point where they began to be amazed by the grandeur of the cosmic creation that surrounded them. They observed an immensity and interrelationship between all cosmic events, and they began to develop a certain awareness, or subconsciousness, that all of this formed a totally interrelated, connected, dependent, intelligently constructed universe. This was something that this primitive man began to feel perplexed and amazed by, and that produced intense feelings of admiration and happiness. And perhaps here we could draw the line between the simple animal and the humanoid, in that humans begin to ask questions and inquire about the world around them, while simple animals only focus on satisfying their most basic needs, such as food, reproduction, defense, etc. Thus, more or less consciously, primitive man came to the feeling or conclusion that the world around him was an immense creation or creative manifestation that must be sustained and directed by some higher being or God who managed it intelligently and perfectly. Therefore, from this consciousness and subconsciousness created in the minds of humans through observation of the grandeur of nature, comes the conviction that there exists a higher entity or a God who manages all this great cosmic creativity, or simply, that this grandeur of nature and cosmic creativity is in itself or deserves the qualification, appreciation, and definition of God. Man and his gods. And men in their different civilizations created their gods in their own image and likeness. Well, yes, that's how it seems. Once they acquired and overcame the subconscious sense, or subconsciousness, of the existence of a higher being or God behind or supporting all of nature that we observe, man began to believe in and create gods clearly superior to himself, but because he didn't fully understand them. Each human group, society, or culture created or adapted its God according to its more or less tribal experiences. Of course, if there have been and are a multitude of gods in different human cultures, it's reasonable to assume that none of them is the complete and exact God of the universe, but rather representations created and adapted to the circumstances and experiences of each culture. But the question would be, does a God of the universe really exist? Of course, if we call all the creativity and intelligence that we observe throughout the universe God, then God exists. It's another matter to analyze and understand this cosmic entity we call God, but that's beyond the scope of this simple exposition. However, we can provide a simple justification for all the cosmic creativity we observe everywhere. As the intelligent and sensitive being that this God or cosmic entity appears to be, it must have a constant need to manifest itself and bring its qualities to life. Otherwise, it would be an inert God, without life or work to demonstrate its existence and make it feel alive. It would be like a painter who didn't paint and manifest his art in his paintings. So, in good reason, the entire intelligent and sensitive structure we observe in the cosmos can be qualified and valued with a correct definition of the God of the cosmos or universe. Later, little by little, we will discover its qualities in greater detail. Intelligence, simple definition. Let's now analyze, through a simple definition, what intelligence, both human and cosmic, would consist of. Intelligence is a characteristic or faculty through which we can analyze, construct, search for, find, and unite simple but complementary elements in order to assemble or construct other sets and structures of elements perfectly unified through their complementary characteristics, which are more sophisticated and advanced and with better qualities than simple elements separately. And this intelligence of searching for and finding complementary elements is what humankind uses to create or assemble its constructions and artifacts, just as the cosmos does through initial chaos, to unite complementary elements and form improved sets, for example, the union of free atoms in nature to form molecules and macromolecules with much better properties, even building life itself on the planets. Of course, like us, this cosmic intelligence would have already devised or constructed those complementary physical elements that would later be suitable for making all kinds of creations and inventions with them. That is, in my understanding, the cosmic entity or cosmic God already had in mind the idea that the atoms of the universe would be capable of creating life in the cosmos. In short, life is already latent and is being prepared in the atoms themselves. The creation of the universe with its first physical elements. For now, let's leave the spiritual realm or the metaphysics of the universe to delve into the very physics or practice of creation. For this, the cosmic entity must imagine and combine simple and complementary elements through its intelligence, with which to construct the entire cosmic framework that we are gradually discovering. To create this enormous universe, I imagine that the cosmic entity would begin by first imagining and constructing the space element or stage where the entire architecture of the universe will be created. But for all manifestation, characters, and subsequent life to develop in this space, an essential element must first be imagined and constructed: universal movement. This will allow infinite and successive constructions to move and develop in a given place in space. Let's think of a theater stage where all kinds of theatrical experiences and creations are successively produced with diverse characters. So now we have the two essential elements for the physical creativity of the cosmos: space and universal motion. On the other hand, the element of time, which so confuses scientists, can be considered a simple parameter for measuring universal motion. That is, by using time, for example, clocks, we can verify the amount of motion contained or produced in any physical event, whether linear or longitudinal, movement of a body over a certain length, or three-dimensional, evolution, growth, aging, etc. Well, by uniting or including universal motion within space, we are presented with rectilinear lines of motion in each and every direction of space, which in turn behave as lines of force or cosmic energy toward motion. So now we have all of cosmic space filled and occupied by all the cosmic energy created in this union of space with universal motion. Well, from this simple union, secondary elements or compounds of these two elements begin to be produced, and in order of construction or creation, they would be: first, the lines of cosmic energy which in their concentric form, or gravity, at any point in space, can join and combine, producing points of condensed energy or matter, which in turn combine and concentrate, forming conglomerates of matter. This matter is then attracted and united, forming and constructing particles and their mass, then atoms, stars, etc., a development that can be seen in my 1992 cosmic and atomic model. And as can be analyzed in this model, the conglomerates or accumulations of matter, for their perfect energy balance, will be constituted or structured into orbital systems, and these, in turn, and following the needs of energy balance and density, will be structured into exponential cosmic levels, such as particles constructing atoms, atoms constructing stars, etc. Reference to a mathematical element, the number pi. Although mathematics is not a subject of this synthesis of cosmic elements, I would like to present here a basic number in cosmic structuring, which is the number pi. And it is because it represents the structural union between the simple parameter of length and the spherical structure toward which all cosmic constructions tend, such as the grouping of matter into spheres, particles, nuclei, planets, suns, galaxies, etc. Furthermore, and according to my calculations, if I am not mistaken, the number pi is essential for some parameters such as the energy density in the cosmos, by mass, 3.14 grams per cubic centimeter. Well, in my opinion, and if mathematics has the scope and power it is given in our time, there must be a direct function of the diameter of the circumference, or sphere, that accurately gives us the value of pi. And since power and root functions are used to construct Cartesian curves, this function of the diameter, 2, must be obtained through power and root functions of 2, as shown in the drawing. Thus, pi will be obtained through a power and root function of 2, pi equals f, 2. Therefore, the current adjustments to pi, using series and algorithms for different values, will logically not be correct but rather simple approximations, since these numerical values that apply to the circumference and its diameter do not exist. The number phi. Another important, surprising, and basic number in mathematics is the number phi. Being as basic in geometry as pi, it should also have a direct function with that number, and of course, it does. We show this direct function in the drawing, and we also conclude or confirm that powers and roots are essential to obtaining the number pi, in this case the simplest of all, the power and roots of 17 in relation to the diameter of 2, of the circumference, as shown in the study and foundations of quadrant pi. In other words, the powers and roots of 17 of the number pi connect and unite both numbers, the number pi with the number phi, in direct formulas. Well, friends, this concludes a brief metaphysical and basic physics explanation of the consistency and structure of the universe. Thank you for your interest.